This evening we're looking at this. God calls ordinary people, which is good, because that's what most of us are. We're just ordinary people. He's not looking for just Nobel Peace Prize winners, though He will take them. He is not looking just for those who have won the Victorian Cross. He will take them. He's not looking for the great and the mighty on the earth, though He will take them. But He can use ordinary people for extraordinary things. That's what He does. He can use folks that you would think, well, he just walked off the farm. Well, yeah, Amos is like that. Also, David was like that. They just walked off the farm and now being used in an extraordinary purpose. Nothing unusual about them except what they are called to do. That's it. And that God's not going to call you to do something that you can't do. That would be a pointless thing for Him to do. He doesn't ask you to do something that physically or in any way you are too limited and you cannot do it. He knows that. That's why He sent His Son to die for us, because He knew we can't supply that. What we can't supply, He will. But He does expect us to do certain things. Now, I want you to look here. Romans 10:13, for whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. All right, and so we have this word whoever. That is all inclusive. That is universal. And it does mean whoever. Whoever does this, this is what's going to happen. And He's not singling any group out or excluding any group. It is truly a whoever. Think of the worst people you could possibly think of, and yes, they're part of that whoever. For we mentioned Jonah briefly just this morning, that yes, Nineveh is subject to the mercy of God as well as Jonah and Israel. They would be part, though this comes in considerably later than Nineveh. All right, but this is whoever is for all people. But then we come to this. 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 26. For you see your calling, brethren, that not many wise according to the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble are called. Meaning they're not here. All right. He could be saying, all right, where is the proconsul? Where is he? Is he in the congregation? No, he's not. What about the governor of Achaia? Is he in the congregation? No, he's not. What about the local high and mighty philosophers? Where are they? Are they part of us? And the answer would be no. These are just regular people. This is even though there is a whoever involved in this that is given to all people, there are others, there are many who they're going to have nothing to do with the church. They just don't. With some, they're going to see the church as beneath their status. That they want something that's a bit, in their mind, more grandiose. That there's something more fascinating about it, something more impressive about it than this kingdom described as stone as compared to gold or silver or even bronze and iron. Here is something of stone, this kingdom. And that you're not going to find the impressive here. So God has to use anyone He can. And He will. He'll use whoever He can. We start with Moses. And here is that God sees what the one chosen could not. Moses could not see himself as much of anything other than leading his father-in-law's sheep around in the wilderness. He had to escape out of Egypt after spending the first 40 years of his life there. He had to escape out of there And now he's been 40 years in the wilderness. This is pretty much what he sees the rest of his life. This is it. But we have Exodus 3, beginning in verse 1. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the back of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. So he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. It kept burning and kept burning and kept burning. And there, it's got to burn to ash by now. There should be just coals, but it's not. Then Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, which why the bush does not burn. So when the Lord saw that he turned aside to look, God called to him from the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses, and he answered, Here I am. Then he said, Do not draw near this place. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place where you stand is holy ground. Moreover, he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the oppression of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrow. So I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them from that land to a good and large land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites. He is telling Moses that the promise made to Abraham is now going to be fulfilled. That's what he's telling him. And that he, Moses, is going to be instrumental in this. This is now coming to pass. That's no minor thing. It is a land promise, a promise that was given to Abraham, actually given to the descendants of Abraham. Now we've come to that point when there is a significant number of those descendants of where they could occupy a land. Prior to their sojourn in Egypt, there was just a little over 70 of them. That's not enough people to occupy a land. That's not much for them to be given a land. And certainly going into the days of Abraham, basically him and Sarai and Isaac, that's hardly a nation. But it's now being fulfilled. It's now going to come to pass. And Moses is being chosen. And Moses, who is 80 at this point, is asking, basically, why me? Why call upon me? Now, therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have seen the oppression with which the Egyptians oppress them. Come now, therefore, and I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. There is the call. That's the duty. That's what he's being sent to do. And we have a response. But Moses said to God, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? You're the one God has chosen. That's who you are. Are you special in any other way? Probably not. Probably not. Are there more articulate speakers of the day? Possibly, though I don't know. Possibly. Are there others that would be more impressive to view than this 80-year-old man who's been out in the desert? Would there be those that would, from a physical standpoint, look more of the part? Yeah, probably. Probably. What sets him aside? Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? Well, God has called you, and you're to go to Pharaoh. All right? Aside from the fact that you have been raised for this purpose. You've been raised for this. You were Pharaoh's, previous Pharaoh's obviously, you were Pharaoh's grandson, raised among Egyptian royalty. You know everything. You can speak the language. You know everything that goes on inside the court and what's likely to go on. You know the ways of the Egyptians and of the royalty, Egyptian royalty. You would know that. So who am I that I should do that? Well, God tells him, it's you, and excuses don't count. Now we come to this, and it's Levi, that God sees what no one else can see. With Moses, Moses didn't see it in himself. He didn't see it at all. Who am I? As opposed to what Isaiah says. Isaiah in Isaiah chapter 6 says, here am I, send me. Moses says, who am I to go into Pharaoh? Who am I? Now we come to Levi, and really with Levi is of a category, and I'm talking about Matthew, that is another name for him. After these things, as Jesus, he went out and saw a tax collector named Levi sitting at the tax office, and he said to him, follow me. So he left all, rose up, and followed him. All right, this is Jesus choosing a tax collector. He could not have chosen anyone of a better category than tax collector, because this is a despised group, tax collectors. You are working for the Roman Empire. You are a pawn for them. They are oppressing our people. And you are, being a tax collector, you're a traitor to your people. You were a traitor. That is the way the tax collectors were seen by the religious elite, and commonly. And yeah, there would have been those who, unlike Levi, who basically is saying he's never done anything that was untoward. He's never done anything that was unethical. But with all of this, it was basically understood that tax collectors, they just use their position to get rich off of you. That's what they were doing. And Jesus chose a tax collector. Why? But we see something different here than Moses. So he left all, rose up, and followed him. There isn't any kind of discussion of who am I to follow you. There isn't that discussion. He just does it. Now understand also, we need to put in a proper context in all this, that it's not as though Levi or Matthew, that this was the first time he ever saw Jesus. It's not. All right, that would be rather peculiar that a stranger comes by to Levi's office and says, follow me, and Levi just follows it. All right, that's not what happened. Levi well understood who was saying, follow me. He well understood. Now, we come to Paul, and this is using someone in weakness, and the qualifications seem rather low. But before we get into this is another one of those things of God choosing someone because He can see something that others can't see. And I do mean others as in Christians, as in followers of Christ. They couldn't see the good that could be with Saul of Tarsus. Well, I would have to confess, in the same position, I wouldn't either. He is a villain. He's made himself that way. He has been an instrument of death, instrument of persecution against the church. But now we're not discussing that part of Paul's life. We're discussing something else. And lest I should be exalted above measure, 2 Corinthians 12 and verse 7. By the abundance of the revelations, a thorn in the flesh was given to me, a messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I be exalted above measure. He understands why this has occurred. He understands the benefit of this. It is a thorn in the flesh. What is that thorn in the flesh? If you know, please tell me, because I don't know anybody that knows. Okay. Paul's not saying what it is. He's not, and I do believe that the Corinthians reading this letter would know what he's talking about. I think if we saw him physically, if we saw him present, we would pretty well understand what his thorn in the flesh is. But we don't know. We don't have that advantage. And he knows what it is about. He knows what it's about. He knows why it's there. It's to keep him level. He has received all kinds of revealed knowledge from God. All kinds. And without doubt, people would have admired him greatly. Even those who weren't followers of Christ would have admired him greatly simply because they would have known concerning the miracles surrounding him. They would have known about that. And so, while he does have his enemies, that's for sure, but he could very well have thought too well of himself if not for this. And, well, pride comes before a fall. And Paul even says that he too could be cast away. He too could be one that just falls by the wayside. He could. And so he knows this. And then he says, concerning this thing, I pleaded with the Lord 3 times that it might depart from me. And God doesn't answer him with a yes. He doesn't. He doesn't. Because this is what he needs for Paul to learn. There'll be a time when Paul will not have that thorn in the flesh anymore. That time's already gone. He doesn't have that thorn in the flesh anymore. But while he's on this earth, it's to keep him grounded, and he prays for this to go away. But the answer is, and he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in weakness. Now I'm saying the following because I had this discussion with someone years ago. Believing that because Christ says my grace is sufficient for you, and my strength is made perfect in weakness, that this person was saying that Paul was morally weak. He's not saying that. He's not saying that at all. And I don't believe that at all. Did Paul have his problems? Yeah, obviously he did. He did have his problems. But this isn't what we're talking about. We're not talking about that Christ is made stronger by someone's moral weakness and they can't seem to get out of that moral weakness. That would make the Word of God of no effect whatsoever. Meaning that it doesn't matter what any command that God gives, anything that God, any kind of instruction from Him, that you cannot get out of some moral trap, some immoral behavior. I don't believe that for a second. And I don't believe that what that man was saying concerning Paul's moral weakness was valid at all. Not at all. But his strength, my strength is made perfect by, that would be physical weakness. We see that time and time and time and time again, all the way through the Old Testament. And he's continuing it on in the New. His church is not some overwhelming power, just like Israel was never some overwhelming power. There were many, many nations, even at the height of Israel's strength, there were many nations far larger than Israel. Many. And with this, my grace is sufficient to you. My strength is made perfect in weakness. We can see things concerning like Gideon's army that's reduced down to 300 because God did not want Israel thinking they are the ones that by their own strength that they won the day. Because they didn't. It's by God's strength. Therefore, here's the conclusion that he gives. Therefore, more gladly, I will rather boast in my infirmities than that the power of Christ may rest upon me. If we take the moral standpoint, he's saying, I'll gladly boast in my immoralities. He doesn't say that. That would be insane. Because he says, shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? And then he gives that absolute powerful negative, which the English doesn't give, certainly not, or heaven forbid. That's the best we can do, but in the Greek it's far more powerful than that. That he's going to boast in his infirmities, whatever they happen to be. And God is using someone like this? Yeah, He is. Therefore, I will take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in needs, in persecutions, in distresses, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. He has learned a powerful lesson in this. Now, we come to something completely different. Saul and David. That something is taken from one and given to the next, given to another. And this isn't by way of a natural succession. This is that God has denied any legacy, any kind of dynasty for Saul of Benjamin, the first king. That Jonathan is not going to get that throne. It's not going to Saul's son of any sort. It's going to be going to David. 1 Samuel 15, beginning in verse 28. So Samuel said to him, this is Samuel saying this to Saul, the Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today and has given it to a neighbor of yours who is better than you. This is in 1 Samuel chapter 15. This is Saul disregarding disregarding the Word of God, disregarding the commands that had been given to him, and actually commands that had been given earlier in the days of Moses. That he's just submitted to the will of the mob, his mob, submitted to the will of his subjects, or at least he blamed it on them, that he does not, while he thinks he has completed the will of the Lord, Samuel has a message for him that he's not. He's been disobedient. He's been disobedient in all this, and in such a callous way, in a way of either having no idea or just allowing it to happen and it's okay. That's not the type of leader, the type of king that God wanted. So it's going to be taken away from him, given to him. And yes, Saul is from the smallest tribe in Israel and a rather minor family in Benjamin at that. And he has taken him and placed him, anointed him as king, but as a disappointment now to God, he's going to be replaced. And also the strength of Israel will not lie nor relent, for he is not a man that he should relent. The strength of Israel, that's God. And that this is going to occur. Nothing you can do about it. Though he will try, he wants David dead. He knows what it means. He knows what he's been told. He knows that all of a sudden he's got a hero. Come two more chapters, he's got a hero on his hand that everybody is admiring. And you have that song that the women are singing. Saul has killed his thousands and David his 10,000s. And Saul doesn't like that. Okay? Can we reverse that? David has killed his thousands and Saul his 10,000. That's the way he wanted it. But he saw, what else can this man have but the kingdom? He knows that. And that is in the plan of God. Here we have something taken from one and given to another. And here in all of this, God using individuals that may not believe in themselves. All right? You think of yourself with far more limitations than you actually have. Far more limitations. You can do more than you realize. God can use He can use someone that others do not believe in at all. They have their doubts about. That here is Saul of Tarsus. Saul of Tarsus becomes Paul the Apostle, and with him being Paul the Apostle, he has some sort of infirmity that weakens him down further. And that you may have a weakness. You may have a weakness that that God can use that for a good purpose. And God can take anything from anyone who's not doing His purpose and give it to someone who will do it. If Paul, I should say Saul of Tarsus, in Acts chapter 9, with the call that Christ gives him, if Saul had said no to that, which he had the ability to do, not a wise thing, but he had the ability to do it, that God would have simply gotten somebody else. Who? I don't know. God would know. He would be the one to know. And that while you may not believe in yourself, others may not believe in you, you may have certain weaknesses. Understand that you have been given a reason why you live. There's a reason why you're here today. There's a reason. And God wants you doing His work and doing His will. And He calls ordinary people. Who am I that I should go unto Pharaoh? Well, God's using ordinary person. And nothing astonishing about Moses, a little bit about his background, but what's he been doing? 40 years in herding sheep? Not too impressive. There would have been far more impressive people in Egypt who one may have thought could do the job. But God calls ordinary people. And God calls for everyone. Whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. Now, it would be a good idea to understand what that means, that actually the Bible does define what it means to call on the name of the Lord. I would suggest that you read concerning Paul's conversion and him relaying that in understanding all these things. Now, this evening, hopefully to bolster us, hopefully to encourage us, hopefully to strengthen us, strengthen in resolve and in faith and in diligence, this lesson has been given. And God is looking for us to become better servants. He is looking for us in doing that. This evening, if you need to respond to the invitation, if we can help you in any way, we ask that you come as we stand and sing.